What's up, gang? Welcome to Room with Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single campaign ending this week on Gamestarter and Kickfound and the highly lucrative Mom and Dad Give Me Money for My Startup.org /Creep Thoughts. The reason being is games tend to get a lot of press and coverage at the beginning of their life cycles, and not as much at the tail end. And let's be real, this is when all the good stuff happens anyway. Plus, this way I get to highlight campaigns that are almost funded or struggling to fund, and then take all the credit when they do. You're welcome, deck chairs on the Titanic. Anyways, I read through the rulebook so you don't have to, and try to break down at least the basics of each one and highlight any mechanics that I think are interesting, to give you that jumping off point to see if they might be right for you and you might want to check them out. So let's get into it. Last week was a great week. Lots of campaigns I was excited about. One that I ended up backing, Lords of Vaala, which is a big deal for me because you know that I'm quite poor. But with their stretch goals, they ended up adding an entire standalone war game for free, which, as someone who's not really that interested in war games at all, I don't really care about. But I think it's just absurd value for $49, and so wanted to highlight it again as something to consider down the line for late pledges. So before we get into this week, I also wanted to give you an update on my thoughts about Arydia, which finishes their funding goal tomorrow. And if you need some help talking yourself down off the proverbial ledge, well, there's a video for that, which I'm sure you've already seen. The reason I wanted to bring it up today is because I know I said I was about 80% sure that I was going to jump into Arydia. And so I wanted to give an update as to where I landed. And I'm getting a copy, but only because I have been bought out. My opinion is for sale. It's true. Far Off Games was so terrified by my 5 reasons you shouldn't back Arydia that they rigged the Board Game Geek contest in my favor, paying me with the hush money that I so rightly deserve. But because I care about you, my loyal viewers, I am uncovering this scandal to the world. Breaking news! Okay, no, obviously they didn't. I entered the contest on my own and made a blood pact with a demon like everybody who wins these sorts of things. But no, I feel very lucky. I have come into a little bit of luck lately from a very nice subscriber. Well, at least I think he's a subscriber. He probably is a subscriber. Who said, "Good luck on my entire life." Pablo, it's happening! It's working already! I hope he sees this. Can't wait to see what the rest of my life has in store since I'm now charmed. Seriously, hit up Pablo. This guy works wonders. Anyway, the main point of this story, other than me being incredibly giddy and over the moon, is enter these giveaways. They can be won. If you aren't entering the giveaways, just when you're on Board Game Geek, don't forget to check what's available. It's possible. They're not all made up. I did this in the first one. I'll try to start searching for more giveaways and at least link them in the comments below, any that I can find. The trouble is that usually by the time this video comes out, most of the giveaways have ended because they're also used to kind of generate that initial interest. So I might be ahead of the curve with whatever I'm putting in the comments, but I'll probably get to them eventually. Anyway, I am so excited to play this game, because if I hadn't won this thing, I probably wouldn't have ended up backing it. And it's not for lack of personal interest, it's just that, honestly, right now, I couldn't justify the expense. So let me splash a little bit of cold water on you now that I've gotten myself all excited. I just don't have the money to spend on it right now. And so even though it got me hyped, I anticipate that I probably wouldn't have been getting a copy just because of the price barrier. So if you're in the same boat, just know that you're not alone. I'm right here with you. Do not feel discouraged. You can get it another time when you're more financially stable. Plus, reason number 6 is you might get my copy 10 years down the road when I'm finally finished playing it. Of course, I'm going to send it off to one of you. Anyway, enough about that. Longest intro ever. The past is the past. Let's get to the near future. With a whole slew of new campaigns. First off, we have Route 66, The Mother Roads, Sid Saxon, America's Main Street, which are a series of light push-your-luck games produced by Eagle Gryphon Games. And there's 6 of them. All different, so thanks for making me do the extra coverage, Eagle Griffin. But in essence, they're all pretty similar as well. If you've ever played Can't Stop, and if you've ever played Board Game Arena, I'm pretty sure you have, because that's the game that they make you play as the initial intro to their system. And if you want 6 versions of that based on Route 66, well then this is the bundle for you. If you get them all, it works out to like $10 Canadian per game, so not bad. Or you can pick out the ones that appeal to you. So first in the bundle we've got Route 66, the Mother Road. And in this one you're going to be drag racing between different sections of Route 66 and trying to get the most points before you reach the end of the road. You get points for placing first or second. You got these little wooden cars, not metal. I'm sorry, Rallyman Cars fans. You may want to take a pass on this one. But you roll dice and you make pairs and you move up to 3 different cars on this one particular route. And you're competing with everybody else too, hoping that one of these cars will hit the designated finish line. This is based off a game called The Great Races from 1974, also designed by Sid Sackson, which you also get a copy of in certain pledges. Or you can add it on for like $3. And I think it's cool as kind of an artifact of these push your luck games and where this design came from, and is the second out of the 6 games in this Route 66 series. But I mean, why play the worst version when you could play the updated one? That's kind of how I feel about it. Now next up you have America's Main Street, where you get 2 games in one box. This is games 3 and 4. And those 2 games are Get Your Kicks and Your Mileage May Vary. Both of these are cube drawing games. So in Get Your Kicks, you're trying to get 1 colored cube on each of the, I think, 8 sections of Route 66. So on your turn, you draw a cube, place it in your little casino, and then you can choose to put all your cubes from the casino onto the board, or draw another cube. The only caveat being, if you draw a cube that is the same color of that you already have, you lose your turn, you don't get to put anything onto the casino, and the next person gets to go. So very simple, cube drawing, push your luck, it'll play super quickly. Now, Your Mileage May Vary is also about drawing cubes, but you have to get a certain number of cubes on each section of Route 66, because they're representing fuel in this instance. So you draw 3 to start, and then you continue to draw more, or stop and put your cubes onto the board. The only caveat with this is that every time you draw, you have to match at least 1 cube of the initial 3 that you drew. And the person who fills up all their fuel first wins. That's 4. 2 more. Now the 5th one is 6s. I screwed that order up. And it's basically that cranium mind meld game, where you all write down 6 words pertaining to a category, and you get a point for every word that you match with someone else around the table. You play a certain number of rounds, person with the most points wins. I mean, it's so simple that it really doesn't feel like you need a physical copy at all, and you can just play this game next time you're at a big party. And finally, to close the Route 66 theme, we have Dead Man's Chest. Because if there's one thing that Route 66 is known for, it's pirates. You have to be the last pirate standing with a gem. You start with gems, you roll some dice, you bet, and you bluff. You get the picture. Or at least I hope you do, because the picture is pretty much all that they tell you about the game. Anyway, if any of those interest you, check it out. I imagine if you're going for the whole package, it might be worth it. It might not be worth it to just do a one-off after you factor in the shipping. For me personally, I think the America's Main Street 2 Wombo Combo games seem the most fun for me, but I guess I've just uncovered that I like cube drawing more than dice rolling. Anyway, that's Wednesday at 12:02 a.m., aka tomorrow night. Now next up we have Lands of Galzyr, which is on GameFound and looks incredibly charming just based on the meeples alone. This is a story-driven adventure, if you couldn't tell by the reviews. This has got more story in it than Kathy Loves Chocolate. Story, story, story! Ack! But what is kind of cool, and I think more narrative games should highlight this, they say it has over 300,000 words, which is a cool stat. In terms of books, they say that's like 3 standard books. Well, no, it really depends on the books. A fantastic fantasy book that isn't too long, it's like 600 or 700 pages, is Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind, which, oh my God, it's such a good book, and I've waited 10 years for the 3rd one to come out. That one, for reference, is 2,500,000 words. So if your book's like 250 pages, then yeah, 3 standard books. Seems like a bit of an overestimation to make it seem more exciting, but still a really cool stat. But this is so whimsical, it's got me hoping that it's going to be a lighter version of oh, no. Same price. Well, the deluxe version is, which I'm not sure why the deluxe version is highlighted over the standard version. Or maybe it's just for me and they're just trying to push it on me as the first pledge to get, and I'll think that it's the only pledge in existence. But the difference between the two is it gives you a bunch of cosmetic stuff that you really don't need. I mean, at this point, how many branded dice trays do we need in the world? I'm sure everyone who has ever wanted one probably has one by now. Do we need a branded dice tray for every game? Well, maybe you do. Maybe it's in the box. I gotta keep it in the box. Saves me from getting it off the shelf. Anyway, it's pretty simple how you play. You move up to 2 spaces on your turn and try to complete quests, which will give you prestige. And you'll win the game when you hit a certain amount of that prestige. If you ever have to do a skill check, you roll these dice and try to hit as many icons as that particular skill check requires. And there are ways to mitigate those rolls with your items, with specialized dice, but that's pretty much the gist. The real meat of the game is going to be going through this open story world and interacting with the environment and trying to complete these checks and getting these prestige points for the various quests that you're trying to complete. It's almost like playing along with a choose-your-own-adventure RPG book, if you remember those, with a little bit more interesting results than just rolling a d6 and seeing what happens, because while these are d6, they got really cool specialized icons on them. So I think if you want an intensely strategic game, I don't think this is it. But if you want some charm and whimsy and read a multi-layered story with your friends, or by yourself, honestly, this seems like a really good solo game too, then this one might be the ticket. Anyway, if that looks interesting to you, that's September 1st, Wednesday at 1 p.m. And then probably 4 months after that because it's on GameFound. Now next we have a game that's not funded. It's not going to fund. It's raised about $500 of its $37,000 goal. So you know it's going to be good. And this is a game where the tagline says it all. Tri-Ohhh. Having a threesome just became more fun. And I mean, hey, I guess they're not wrong. Board games are awesome and will elevate the fun of any 3-person get-together. I just feel like the design elements here are a little lacking. I can't really tell if it's cooperative or competitive. They keep having you pause to kiss the other players, which to me feels like it really would take away from the intense roll and move action that you have going on. But I guess it's a unique mechanism that I haven't seen in really any other game before. Although probably not great in terms of COVID, and probably not something you're going to want to pull out at a convention. I mean, maybe they thought the game was too intense and they wanted to implement these mandatory breaks, which I get, but I kind of prefer pizza breaks, to be honest. And looking through all the cards, I don't think that that is an option. It just says, lick the other person. They're not likely to have sausage and pepper. Well, then, no. But hey, if your regularly scheduled 3-player Gloomhaven group is getting a bit stale, well then why not give Tri-Ohhh a try? Imagine having this on your shelf and pulling it out with a what do I play randomizer, randomizing your whole collection, deciding what you play that night. Well, sorry, the app said it. We gotta play it. Them's the rules. I've spent enough time on this. We're moving on. Now let's move to a real board game, and we have Titans of Eden, which is also not funding and also probably won't hit its funding goal, to be completely honest, but it's a deck builder for 2 to 6 players. But when you play with 4 or 6, you're more likely on teams. So really it seems like a 1 versus 1 experience is what they're trying to implement here. And it looks really considered. It's actually quite a nice campaign page. You get a feeling of what they're trying to do differently. They're saying that all the cards, like almost every power, is interactive. So there's no kind of just chaining your own engine, but it's all about sort of that offense. And they make sure when setting up the game, you randomize the cards, but you do have to put in a certain amount of each type. So then that way, there's going to be always cards that can combat the other person's cards. What's also kind of unique about it is you all pick a card to play and you all kind of flip it up at once, so there's less waiting. And you can do it in 2 different styles. You can have a constructed deck like Magic the Gathering, or you can have like a casual version like Dominion where you all kind of draft them throughout the game. In addition to all that, their storage box looks fantastic. And I wish more games would do this and be economical with space and just include as much space as the game needs. Architects of the West Kingdom does this. This is awesome in doing that. I just wish more would do it and not feel the need to have a bigger box just so it looks more expensive on the shelf. But unfortunately, even though it does look really neat, it doesn't look like people are jumping on board. But what's really awesome, and a really cool move on the part of the creators, is that if it doesn't fund, they're just gonna send out a free print and play to everyone on their email list. Which I think is great because there's a lot of people who are apparently excited to get this game and probably won't have the opportunity to do so. So I just think that is such a friggin' classy move so that people can enjoy it. And then maybe if they relaunch down the road, more people will have been able to try it and it can fund then. So even if you're not backing, hey, why not sign up for the email list and get yourself a free print and play copy and try it out for yourself, if you're interested in printing and playing, obviously. There's a lot of cards, so there's a potential that you won't be interested, but you have until Wednesday at 10 a.m. to check that out. Now, next up we have Mad Max, the board game. It's called Dustbiters, and it's almost at $100,000 Canadian, which is incredible when you consider the game's 33 bucks Canadian and only has 21 cards. That's it. Each card is a car. And so you have 4 cars, you have 4 of them, and your opponent has 4 cards. And at the end of each round, the dust storm is going to destroy the last car that's at the back of the convoy. And the last car standing wins. But each card and car has a special ability. You get 3 actions, and you can play a car, you can move a car up 1 space, or you can activate its special ability if it's in the convoy. Simple, easy to learn, not much more to say other than people are loving it. I don't know if I love paying $2 a card after shipping, but I would definitely be intrigued if it was the lower price. But if you're into it though, you have until 11:55 a.m. on Wednesday to check it out. Now, funding 4 minutes later, we have the opposite of all these explosions and violence, and that is a card game called A Kindly World, which drew me in just by the name alone. It's based on the traditional set collection and push your luck Japanese card game Botsumekuri. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's 38 bucks Canadian, and as far as I can tell, it basically amounts to a slightly better version of memory. Because on your turn, you can either turn over a card or pick a card up. So you could turn other ones down, I guess, hoping that your opponent has a terrible memory and you can remember it for later. The art is what really brought me in. I think I like this sort of simple manga style. But unfortunately for me, it amounts to too basic a card game for me to be really interested, even if it would let me practice my Japanese. But if you're interested, hey, that's September 1st at 11:59 a.m. Now, moving on, we've got Kharkov Battles, which is self-described as a standalone game covering the second and third Kharkov battles that can be combined with its predecessor, Fall Blau. And if you don't know what Fall Blau is, which I first read as Fall of Blau, and I thought, yes, that is the best name for a tyrant that ever existed. Clearly my head is going to always exist in this fantasy world and not our real one.
Don't worry, baby, it's all real.
Thanks, Maggie. You're my inception token. Good to know I'm not losing it, right? Back to Blau. Good old Blau. It's actually the moment where World War II started shifting in the Allies' favor instead of being in Germany's favor. Because up until that point, the German forces were extending themselves more and were winning on what was kind of known as the War of Movement, which is what was making them so incredibly hard to stop and slow down. But by overextending themselves and also not hitting those sort of extension goals that they needed to, Fall Blau push, I think it was, this then began the comeback for the Allies. There's your little history lesson for the day. This is another crunchy, cheesy gordita crunchy war game by Compass Games. You can combine it with their other titles, and it's pretty niche, but if you wanted to get into war games, they've created 31 campaigns so far. So sure, go for it. This certainly looks a lot better than Granada, which was their last campaign, if only by virtue of the theme alone. Anyway, that's $4.51 on September 1st. Now, next up we have a game that I really could have done a 5 reasons not to back, but it slipped through the cracks because of my expectations, and that's Flamecraft. I saw it going around, I thought, oh yeah, this is cute. I bet this is doing well. But it has raised an incredible $1.3 million. I can only assume more for what amounts to a really simple, introductory gateway game. And a lot of this has to do with Deluxe Pledge, which is double the cost of the base pledge. $80, which is $100 for me in Canadian, before shipping. Although with a funding of this side, there's absolutely a group buy that is happening for people in Toronto. So the shipping almost becomes negligible in those instances because so many people are jumping on board and are splitting the shipping cost. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. If you're buying anything on Kickstarter, look for group buys through Board Game Geek or some other method. And if you don't see one, start a geek list yourself for your city. You may be surprised, people will join on. You can save yourself those shipping bucks and put that extra money towards buying yourself another little treat. Anyway, I think the Deluxe Pledge is pretty unnecessary, although not to 15,000 backers. They want the upgraded tokens and the dragon miniatures and the game trays and the wooden pieces. And they also want to throw 20 bucks more for a delicious little bread dragon plushie. I understand the desire to pump up your games with deluxeified pieces, I do, but it just blows me away that so many people are going in for it on this one. But I mean, I have to admit, the whole thing is pretty adorable. But just because it's adorable doesn't necessarily mean that you need the deluxe version. Although I know in particular metal coins are usually pretty expensive and you get 24 metal coins here along with everything else, and they're usually like $1 a coin, which also seems ludicrous to me. So I understand the difference of price between the base game and the Deluxe Pledge. I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think every game needs to be deluxeified. However, if you are interested in this game, and I promise to talk about the mechanics soon, it kind of does make sense to pledge at the deluxe level because that's what's going to be offered at Kickstarter, and pretty much only in this sort of Kickstarter way. Then they'll be producing the cheaper version to send out to retail. And if you're going for the cheaper version, well, you might as well just wait until it gets to retail. I know that you get those few extra Kickstarter exclusive town maps, but is that really worth the cost of shipping? Because that's probably the difference that you're going to end up paying. Do you really need the Spice Tower? Maybe you do. For me, I don't. So if you're backing now and not waiting till it's at retail, you probably should be doing so because you're getting something additional that you would find harder to get later on. Now in terms of the game, what even is it? Well, you're trying to be the master of Flamecraft and get the best reputation in a town filled with artisan dragons making little coffees and little cakes. God, it's adorable. It's basically worker placement. You move a dragon to a shop, you'll get all the stuff that's in that shop, or you can choose to enchant the shop and make it produce better stuff later on. If you move to a place that already has a little dragon, you have to give them one of your items or one of your something to go there and collect all the things that you want. You're also competing to place your own special dragon cards in the spots of the town, and they'll cover up certain things and give you certain rewards when you do that. The shops honestly remind me a little bit of Ex Libris, although it's probably just the shape and the fact that it's worker placement, but I don't mind because I love that game. I honestly think it's a great looking game. It's a simple design, it looks really easy to learn, and it's one that I will be checking out when it gets to retail. But if it's something that you think you'd like, the base game is 39 bucks and it finishes on Thursday. Now next up we have Chili Mafia, where you compete to assemble the best gang of chili mobsters and run your friends out of town. And I gotta say, I really don't like the look.
Yeah, you better watch your mouth, wise guy.
The look of myself in the mirror
Yeah,
when I am looking at this game because I'm so filled with filled with emotion because this is the best game. It's the best game in the world, and
better than that. Make it better.
Pablo, I swear, I'm sorry, Pablo. It's my friend Pablo. He's here.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? You keep talking.
Yep,
You're gonna
it's
get
the
a
best game in the whole
chili.
world. I give it the room and board seal of approval. Get this game and no other game, and you never have to get another game again.
All right, I guess that's okay for now. But I'll be back.
Help me. But what I actually do love about this campaign is they've got this little scale, which kind of says it all. If you think the theme is funny and you want a family game with a high amount of luck, this tells you exactly what to expect and doesn't pretend to be anything else. And I think that's great. It knows what it is, and people are responding to that. And I think the theme is really funny. I wish it were $15 or $20 US instead of $25. To me, that seems a little high.
What are you saying?
Not high enough. It seems not high enough. I wish it was 50.
Right.
So
50?
check it out.
That's ridiculous.
I wish it was $2,000.
What?
Pledge
Pathetic. More.
$2 million.
Higher.
Pledge $2 million
Higher.
on Thursday. Now next up, we have not a board game, but it has raised over $7 million and is one of the most successful tabletop campaigns ever run on Kickstarter. And so I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention it. So give me an air, give me a water, give me an erg, give me a fires. What does that spell? Avatar Legends, the RPG game. If you're a fan of the cartoon, or if you're a fan of RPGs, you can get all the physical books and stretch goals and add-ons for $75. But even better, you can get all of those as a PDF for only $20. You don't even have to play as a bender. All the options are there. You get to play in different eras of the world. I think this world is so rich. I definitely watched Avatar: The Last Airbender growing up, although I didn't watch Legend of Korra. I know, it's supposed to be so good. But over 60,000 backers have spoken, and I get it. $20 is a great entry point for what I'm sure is going to be a lot of content, a lot of a really cool world to explore. So if you have any interest in that, that is Thursday, September 2nd at 8:30 a.m. Now next up we have Wicked and Wise, which is a team trick-taking game for 2 to 6 players. Each team has a dragon, which gets to play cards for their number value, and a mouse, who gets to play cards for their ability. It's a really neat concept, and I remember when it was pitched in the board game reviewers and media group that I'm a part of on Facebook, because I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of a neat spin. The team with the most money at the end of the game wins, because dragons, well, they love gold. But what's neat is every round, whoever wins, they get to choose to either get 2 coins or a special treasure that gives them abilities, and whichever one they don't pick, the opposing team gets that thing. So it's always going to probably be pretty close. Plus there are these goals. So at the beginning of the round, your dragon will receive 4 of them, and they'll pick 2, and they'll give those 2 to their mouse, and their mouse will pick the one that the team is trying to complete. But they can't necessarily tell the dragon which one they chose, which also makes for a really interesting means of communication between the 2 teams. It's $25, which does seem a little high, but I guess it's more than just a deck of cards because you have these varying goals and these varying treasures and other elements to the printing cost. I think I mind this pricing less because they also are giving you the option to get a print and play version. And so just the fact that they're saying, yeah, here is a cheaper option, I don't mind that the $25 option feels a little more on the higher side than what I would like. Or maybe because I just like trick-taking games over push your luck family games. Whew. Hidden here. That Pablo. He can sometimes be very nice, but don't get on his bad side. Anyway, if you're interested, that's Friday at 12 a.m., aka Thursday night, to decide. Now, up next, we have a game that is launching on Kickstarter today, finishes on September 3rd. I don't know what time. I don't know when it's launching. I don't even know the price, but I do know the concept, and it's called We Whimsical Creatures, or at least that's what I'm calling it. And the whole premise is so dumb, but like good dumb, funny dumb, where teams will have to identify a specific creature based upon the sound. It's like code names that the only clues you were allowed to say were screams. Bez, the designer, posted about it in that Facebook media group, and I just thought the premise was so funny that I made sure to get a link to the campaign page, and I will absolutely be checking it out. As someone who likes to make funny voices and noises, and whose neighbor insists that I exclusively speak in voices throughout these videos. Who wants a whole video like this, but then I have to speak out of them on this, and who wants to listen to Mala talk like a duck for 5 or 3 minutes, or how long the video is. I'm sorry for subjecting you to that. This seems right up my alley. Anyway, check it out. That finishes September 3rd, and I'll link it with all the other links. And finally, we have Peg Pastimes. Not pegging Pastimes, which is a very different thing, and probably suited for a different game on our list. But this is actually a pretty cool one. You know those little wooden peg games that you used to play as a kid? Well, this is them. All of them. They say that they realized that some of the world's best games, a bit of an oversell, were falling through the cracks, and so they wanted to make more physical copies of them, and they've gone all around the world and picked some from various locations, and they have 30 of them now. And in this campaign, they're introducing 6 more. They're $15 US each, or you can get a discount and get all of them. I mean, I guess you could get all 30 and your whole house would be filled to the brim with wood and pegs, and you can peg to your hearts. Nope, just heard it again. So if you want to check that out, that finishes September 4th, 9/07. And that's it for the week. That's all I'm doing. If there's another game out there, well, you're not hearing about it from me. And I don't believe it even exists. So each week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. And honestly, this week I am so intrigued by We Whimsical Creatures, or whatever it's called, that I have to give it the nod. If you were at the UK Games Expo, it was sold out immediately, and people kept talking about it. Or at least that's what the word on the street is. The street being the comments section of that particular Facebook post. But also, I'm nuts. And all of these little creatures look as though they might as well be self-portraits.
Wouldn't you agree?
So that's my pick of the week. It's true. No getting around it. Now for my pick for you, it's tough, because you'd think Flamecraft or Lands of Galzyr would be kind of the obvious picks on this list, right? I mean, I think they're the most popular for sure. But with Flamecraft, I'm not into deluxe components. Well, I am, but not everything has to be deluxeified. And with Lands of Galzyr, well, I think it's also cute, but I don't think everybody will enjoy the amount of story with the lower amount of dice rolling that the game seems to provide. So my pick this week, and it's solidified after talking about it. I wasn't sure when I was kind of writing out my thoughts, but I'm going to give it to Wicked and Wise. And maybe this is because I didn't give it to Bugs of Backyardia last week, and I'm devastated about it. Or maybe I have large campaign fatigue based upon the roller coaster that Arydia has put me through over the past week. Or maybe I just like trick-taking games, and I think this one looks pretty cool. I still wish it was $5 cheaper, but hey, it gets the nod. That's my pick for you, Wicked and Wise. Or if you don't like that, read Name of the Wind instead. I swear it is so good. If you liked Harry Potter, it's like a similar learning magic at a school feel, but just like off the charts. After you get through the first 50 or 70 pages, it's like popcorn. I couldn't put it down. Just don't get excited that the 3rd book will ever be released. Certainly not the August 2016 rumor that's been going around. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. As always, what are you backing this week? I'm really interested to hear if any of these things caught your eye. I'm very interested to hear anything else you might say, I guess. Don't forget, I have a board game giveaway happening right now to thank you all for helping me reach that 1K milestone of subscribers. It's really cool. I appreciate you all a lot. And that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. Don't forget to leave a like on your way out. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, so I really don't have a catchphrase. I can't think of anything funny to say. What a letdown.
Just say something funny in post, you idiot.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah, get out of here. We don't need ya. I don't need anybody. What is it Vox doing? Cover me? Ridiculous. Yeah, that's right. I ain't going away. No way, no how.